First of all, I think the bird itself has to have the pedigree behind it before we ever look at anything else. If it's necessary for your distance pigeons, I listened to yesterday's and correctly what they're saying. If the birds haven't got that bloodlines in them in the first place, it's very hard then expecting them to win. We look for consistency. 400 from the, we talk from 400.
Yeah, from middle distance to long distance on the day. You're 5 hours through to your 9.5 hour.
Oh, I think you look at the previous performance of those pigeons, leading up to those races, your training, your management. I think your management's probably one of the biggest things in your backyard. A lot of people don't put as much emphasis on as they should. That's your feeding, training, do you overtrain? Probably most flyers do these days. They think that the reward is putting them in the back of the car and taking them up the road, and often it's maybe detrimental to your pigeon. Making sure the bird's healthy, they're flying around the roof looking well. And I said for the distance races, those birds have to have the background in them. When I say that, I'm starting to get a bit worried now because the birds in the, this year in the VHA and the Union were, a lot of them had Euro blood in them, so they're starting to, maybe we think that they won't fly those distances, but maybe they can. We're probably a bit more the pioneer flyers compared to overseas in Europe, and we're probably a bit silly in Australia. We try them out in the distance, and some of those birds are actually doing it, so maybe in the future, your hermit coisters, your Koopmans and pigeons that we all think are only middle distance pigeons, maybe we may find blending them into our own hard day pigeons. We may start finding pigeons that are going to do it more on the day, better velocities, faster velocities. I can only relate to Victoria. I'm sure David will mention this to John. Years past, when I first started in the 70s, most races in the 500, 600 were 1 second day. These days, if you haven't got a pigeon on the night, basically not going to win the Fed. It's as simple as that. So this year in the VPU and the VHA and the VPU in particular, we had all-day flies. Normally back in the 80s and 90s, I can tell you now, there's no one home we wouldn't have got those birds, leading birds through to 8 in the morning. And this year, a number of us were getting them at sunset, 20 minutes into the dark, and we had between 4 and 10 birds in those Broken Hill, 450 miles, Fowler's Gap 500, Carrington 500, Dibbarburra 600, they were home on the night, the winning birds. And on conditions that you would normally thought the birds would not be there on the day. So our birds are getting faster. And I know when I was in UK, I visited Jeff Cooper. That was one of the comments that Jeff said, that his birds were all Dewert background, from Emile Dewert. The birds that he was looking for at the time weren't your extreme distance birds. He was looking for birds that could fly the distance but could fly it faster, because he felt that in the future you'd have to have birds that were actually going to do a better velocity than the ones that were doing it yesterday. So I think that's what we may be looking at in the future.
Thanks, John. So you don't sort of close yourself in relation to thinking of a middle to long distance 1 day pigeon as a family type. You're more open-minded to that now in relation to those shorter distance pigeons being more explosive? Yeah. Yeah, David?
Well, further to what you were saying there, John, I did one of these probably 12, 14 years ago, I guess, Greg. You got me over there and we sat up there together and did what we did. And I said of that thing, in my opinion, if I was living here, I'd be putting Hoobans into your long distance pigeons. And I nearly got thrown out of the joint and said, that'll ruin them. I said, because that's going to put a little bit of strength and speed into them, and I think you'll fly a bit quicker on the 5s. So, following on what you were saying, we're on a bit. That's exactly what you've got to do, in my opinion, to keep them going up there.
Yeah, sure. What do you actually look for in a good pigeon, David? Have you got a selection criteria?
Yeah,
like size, balance, shape, feather, bone, all
performance.
That sort of? Performance number one.
All three. Performance, really. They've got to be winning pigeons. Sure, you can skip a generation when you try and breed something for stock. But then, obviously, once you get them in your hand, there's nothing that's better than a nicely balanced pigeon. A pigeon that's not heavy, even if you pick it up in the stock loft, it still feels like you could race tomorrow.
So you look for the buoyancy in the pigeon and the light
buoyancy and the
bone?
balance.
Yep.
And everyone likes a nice wing. I like a nice wing. I'm not those really fat flights that the old original Jansons had. I like a nice wing on them and a bit of intelligence about them. I don't go overboard with the eyesight. I think it's a good thing, but maybe I just never really learnt it. I just like a nice, when you look at them, they look intelligent. They don't look like a dill. And performance again, off we go. There's nothing better than winning a good race with a beautiful handling pigeon, but it's as much fun winning a good race with a shocking one.
Well said.
You're there to,
Well said.
you're there to win the Melbourne Cup, not the Melbourne Show, in my opinion.
So for you, it's performance results first before
That's
anything
it.
else is looked at.
That's it.
Okay. Ross Chapman, what do you look for in a good pigeon? And you've had quite a few of them over the years.
Well, firstly, I don't think I'm really qualified to be sitting up with these chaps that they fly the longer distance birds better than mine. But what I would look for is, I just like a pigeon that feels nice in your hand. And I think over the years you just handle pigeons, and the one that feels nice in your hand, you're sort of halfway there. I'm not saying there's not good pigeons that feel shit house or bad pigeons that feel nice, but generally over the years you sort of know what you want in your own backyard. I don't like big pigeons, I don't like pigeons with keels. Maybe that's because I live down on the coast, so mainly I've got to concentrate on the harbour line, and I find the smaller birds seem to be able to fly better for me. But the bottom line is, whether it's a pedigree or not, you have to have good pigeons. There's no substitute for good pigeons. If you've got a slow dog out there, it's a slow dog. It doesn't matter what you do with it, it's still slow. And pigeons are the same in my opinion. Grant Patterson said it to me just recently, there's a chasm between a good pigeon and a bad one. So if you're running around just getting moderate pigeons, you're going to be a moderate pigeon flyer. Sorry, that's just the way I see it. Hand over to John.
Hand that one back.
Not working properly?
Hand that one back.
Yeah.
Is this one?
Yeah, that's good. Is this one okay? You hear me? Okay. Now over to John Van Beers. John, the question is, John, what do you look for in a good pigeon? What do you look for in a good pigeon? And you've had plenty of them.
The only thing that counts in my loft is results, and more results. I don't have a preference for one winner over the other. I've been fortunate to win